We have our second model over here. Her brows are again dark, a little bit on the darker side. However, we have more patches throughout the brow. We have a definite shape. The hairs themselves are a little bit shorter, which tells us the hair is a little bit more coarse as well. Plus, by moving the hair right now, I can see that it has a very big tendency growing downward. So we will have to hold it a little bit longer. So we're going to start again with the 3 minutes, probably drag it until 9 minutes with the first solution. Before we begin, we need to remove the makeup which we have around the brow with micellar water. So we're gonna grab the Bioderma micellar water with the gauze and remove the makeup around the brows and in the brow as well. Any foundation, any powder on the skin throughout the procedure will affect the results. So your skin must be cleaned and degreased as well. No oils, no makeup. Once we have removed the oils, we check the skin, make sure there is no irritation or anything that might tell us that there is unhealthy skin. Everything looks good. We're a little bit more on the oilier side over here in the brow zone, telling by the size of the pores. So we need to degrease the area, and I'm going to use again the 70% alcohol to remove any oils around the skin. So the dark hair tells us that the processing time will be a little bit longer than for the blonde hair. Blonde hair is thinner, contains less melanin, and also will take in the first firming solution quicker. Therefore, over here right now we have brown hair, so we're going to hold it slightly longer. Plus, like I said, compared to the previous model that we presented, her brows are more on the thicker side. Hair follicles are larger. Therefore, it will be harder for them to go ahead with the first solution. So we're going to grab our number 1 lift solution, dispense it into one of the plastic cups. Grab our lipstick applicator. And begin applying it on the eyebrow. So the trick with plastic wrap, you can use on the very coarse hair, the curly hair, the African type of hair. So then you would cover it with the plastic wrap on top to speed up the process of the first step. Remember to cover all the hairs. You need a thicker layer of the first solution, the lifting solution. To break the bonds. I'm going to demonstrate right now to you with the plastic wrap so you have an idea. This will help us speed up a little bit the process on her because her hair over here in the tail zone is quite coarse and not very resilient. So it will take us a little while to lift them. So for the step 1, we applied the product on her brows, and right now, to keep the heat inside of the brow and to help to speed up the process of lifting, especially the tails, because hairs over here are lifted already. So the tails, we're going to apply the ceramic foot wrap on top and time ourselves for 7 minutes in total, but every 2 minutes, I'm going to be checking the brows and brushing them through. But on her, just like I said, like on the previous model, we held for in total for 8 minutes. So 7 minutes will definitely be the timing for this model. Maybe even more if the hairs still don't lift. So right now we're timed for 7 minutes, and I'll be coming back to the brows to brush them through and check the lifting every 2 minutes. Okay, we're 7 minutes into the first step of the lifting. So I'm removing the plastic wrap. I'm going to brush the hairs. See how easy they're lifting. Still another minute can be held over there. So the plastic wrap just allowed us to cut down the time. Like I said, you can use it all the time. You don't have to because the product works without it perfectly. This might take you a little bit longer. And we cover it up again 1 minute, and then we are going to remove it. Okay, so 1 minute is up. We're removing the plastic wrap. And we're going to remove our first step with dry gauze. Remember, why is it dry? You don't want to stop the chemical process. And we're proceeding to our step 2, which is the setting solution. Like good, generous layer on all the hairs. Again, our bond back, right? Because in the first step, we're breaking the disulfide bones. Right now, we need to get them back in place to make sure the brow hair becomes again strong. Because after the first step, the brow hairs are very, very vulnerable, easy to break and easy to damage. So we're applying our plastic wrap again with the clean side. So we turned it over and just applying it with the other side. And keeping it 2 minutes, 1 or 2 minutes less than the first step. So the first step was 8 minutes. This one, we're going to time ourselves for 6 minutes. So the time's up. We're removing the plastic wrap. We're not going to need it anymore. And with regular water, we're removing our second step. We're going to grab our brush through the brows, and I want you to take a look at the sections where we have gaps. So for this model, we want to create nice solid stamp of the pigment that will create the beautiful defined shape, because she has a really good definition already of the brows. So she did the shaping of the brows properly. The only thing we need to clean it up a bit around. So her brows are, we don't really need to reshape them, or let's say map them out. So the only thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to outline them with the white pencil. Creating this border line for my pigment. So on her, I will show you the top and bottom. Because we do want, on her type of eyebrows, if you're creating a more solid stamp, we do want to work with the top as well a little bit. So for now, I'm just going to brush the hairs a little bit downward. So they are easily moved right now. I'm just outlining the shape of her natural brows. We're going to turn a little this way. Okay. And the next step, we're going to clean up the hairs that are outside of the shape. Remember, tweezing only on the day of the brow lamination. Otherwise, you can create irritation on the skin, because by waxing or threading the eyebrows, you will be exfoliating the skin, which is the last thing you want to do once the skin has been exposed to so many different chemicals. We're creating nice and smooth line, and always remember you can block more if needed once you apply the tint, or once you remove the tint, because you will see this perfectly defined line already. So our model here, she does not mind having her brows slightly darker and more defined. So we're going to choose number 7 from the Bronze Sun pigments. I'll show you in a second. Okay, so we're gonna go with the Bronze Sun color number 7. Again, mix the color right before you're ready to actually begin tinting. Do not do it in advance, because otherwise you're going to be left with the wasted product. Once it oxidizes a lot, it stops working. So it's different from the regular hair dye. It's a 50-50 mix. If you're putting 1 drop of the pigment, you're putting 1 drop of the oxidizing solution. Remember, the solution must be 3%. If you're working with more than 3%, yes, it will help you cover the gray hair better. However, it will be much more damaging to the skin and to the hair of the brow. So 3% is an optimal percentage. We're going to begin by working with our blended brush first. Remember the first layer, very, very thin. So we're beginning by outlining the skin through the bottom, focusing only on the skin. So you kind of going back and forth, moving the hairs, applying very, very thin layer. We do not, on her, I don't want to go all the way to the front just yet. I'm first going to focus on the tail and through the middle and the top of the brow. Bronson is a very unique product. You really need to practice a little bit working with it to get used to it. It's not your regular tinting pigment. Okay, so the first layer on the first eyebrow. Now we go to the second brow. You have to work very quickly, guys. If you're not able to work quickly, do 1 brow at a time. Because once the product, like I said again, once it oxidizes, it stops working. You don't want to have a thick layer. You want to have a see-through, like kind of film over the brow. If you're going to put a very thick layer from the very beginning, you will end up with uneven tone of the pigment on the skin, which turns out very, very patchy. If you see, you got a little bit on the skin, dipping it in the alcohol, removing it right away. creating nice and precise line. Okay, going back to our right eyebrow. And we're gonna start building more color. Throughout the tail. Take your time, go very precise. If you're not, like I said, able to work quickly, just finish one eyebrow and then tint the other eyebrow. Don't try to rush the process because you might end up with uneven tone and different shades of the brows. So I'm gonna start moving slightly forward with a very thin layer without reaching this corner just yet. We're gonna do it in the very end for a couple of minutes and remove it right away. The slanted brush allows me to create this nice and sharp line. You don't have to use the slanted brush. You can work with the flat brush, whichever one you're most comfortable with, whichever is going to help you achieve this smooth result. Again, leaving this corner over here. We're not tinting it just yet. It's going to be our very last step for a couple minutes, like literally 1 minute, I would even say. Okay, let's go back. So you're just jumping back and forth by applying more layers while the other brow is drying out. So here again, cover all the gaps on the tail. Okay, so this is our technically last layer. Once I am able to cover all the skin parts. So technically, usually you go 2-3 layers. You don't need more than that to cover the skin. No, we're still staying over here. So now on my final step, I'm going to build this top part. But keeping it more slanted. You see, under the angle, I'm not creating the squared look. Because what's going to happen is going to be very harsh for her. And we don't want her to look angry. And now, once you're on your last step, you're also catching the hairs and coloring through the hairs as well. Same thing on this eyebrow. Coloring through the front, creating an ombre effect of the brow. So just to note back, the bronze-on is going to last approximately 7 days on the skin. If your client takes good care of the skin, moisturizes it, it's not on the dry side, might last them longer. It's going to last up to 7 weeks on the actual hair. So now we're going to grab water. Just going to dispense some water over here. With our Q-tip, wet the Q-tip and begin removing just the fronts of the brows. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds on the other side because we just applied it. Meanwhile, if you see any hairs that are again outside of the border, you can tweeze them out. Okay, we're gonna get to the second side. Because we have been applying simultaneously, this brow still has been a little bit behind. That's why I'm giving it a few more seconds than the right eyebrow to get the color in. Remember, with this model, we want to see more of the color. So I'm going to keep it for 2 more minutes and then begin removing it up until the middle. So we're going to time ourselves for 2 minutes and remove until the middle of the brow. See, after the pigment application, you see already a better line, and the hairs that are just don't fall into the line can be plucked out. Because the whole idea here is to create nice and sharp bottom edge. After 2 minutes, begin removing further, wiping very little by little. So the reason we're wiping by sections to achieve the ombre effect of the eyebrow. And the tails, we're going to keep them on for another 3 minutes because I want them to be the darkest. So we're going to put the timer for 3 minutes and then remove the rest. Okay, so the time's up. Now we can remove the rest of the eyebrow with wet gauze with the regular water. Got the perfect definition here. Remember, don't be afraid to wipe well because the product is going to keep on working if you don't remove it. Okay. Few of the hairs that are outside of the border, again, they can be tweezed out. Removing the second brow. Brush them through. And remember, the last step is our nourishing solution, which is going to keep our brows regenerating and keep them healthy after everything they have been exposed to today. Make sure your client understands that they do need to use the primer, special like serums for the brows at home to keep them nice and healthy. And if they want the procedure, the tinting to last them longer together with the lamination process. I'm just going to brush them through right now and use our concealer underneath the brow for the perfect, picture perfect results. Brushing them in the upward direction and to the side. You don't want them to be looking too much upward, going to give it a crazy look. So we wanted more of a natural and smooth flow of the brow. And now we're grabbing a bit of the concealer to hide any blemishes. This way. It hides blemishes as well as our redness on the skin. Gives a flawless eyebrow look. I'm going above as well. Redness right after the procedure, it's normal. Look how much I was touching her skin with my fingers, stretching it. It's going to go down within 15-20 minutes. Okay, if you move the brows by accident, brush them up again before taking a photo. And look straight into the camera. The definition that she came in is still there. The shape hasn't changed much, but like I said, the fullness of the brow looks more defined right now. So they appear to be thicker.